Good morning, good afternoon, good evening from whichever part of the world you're with us today. Hope all of you have enjoyed our 2 days of power packed speakers at this historic Thai Global Summit. I am Divya Medar from Thai Hyderabad. I am the chef founder director for Snacker Street Private Limited, a ready to cook frozen snacks company supplying to unicorns and chains in the B2B space through white labeling or indirect retailing and contract manufacturing. Today, we are all here at the third and last day of the Thai Global Summit 2020 to embrace new ideas and opportunities, engage with our 300 plus power speakers, and be empowered with knowledge shared through the Thai Global Network. That's our topic for today: engage, embrace, empower. Our wonderful moderator for today is Rashida Adenwala. She is the founder and partner for R&A Associates, a reputed company secretary law firm in Hyderabad. A recipient of the Best Women Entrepreneur Award from the Confederation of Women Entrepreneurs of India, Rashida is also a charter member of Thai Hyderabad and the chair for Thai Women Hyderabad. An active member, mentor, and contributor to the Thai Hyderabad entrepreneurship ecosystem, I would like to thank Rashida dearly on behalf of Thai Hyderabad for moderating this session. Over to you, Rashida, to take us forward on this talk with our esteemed panelists today.
Thank you so much, Divya, and a very good afternoon to all of you. Mitaji, Ranjini and Dipti. Dipti, great to connect with you again. And actually, the title which we have today is very apt because each one of you represent one word. And if I start with Mitaji, of course, Mitaji, you are empowering women because of your policies that you're doing at the government level. And Ranjini ji, you are embracing women by your great work that you're doing through your foundation, and making sure that the gender gap is reduced as much as possible. And Dipti, as everybody knows, that you are, the women entrepreneurs look upon WeHub to get and we be engaged so that they can grow. And so I think that title is really apt for all of us, for this particular session, because each one of you do represent that. And so I'll give you a quick introduction to our esteemed panelists today. And there is so much for each of them. To make a very short presentation would be doing injustice, but lack of time. So I start with Mitaji. Mita Ravilochan is an IAS officer of the Maharashtra cadre. Currently, she is a member secretary, National Commission of Women, Government of India. Her role concerns facilitation of institutional mechanisms to provide support to women in distress and to work for the cause of women entrepreneur empowerment. In the past 30 years in the administrative services, Mitaji has discharged senior management responsibilities in many positions in the state government of Maharashtra, namely Principal Secretary Reforms in the Department of Finance, Secretary Health, served in the Higher and Technical Education Department and Directorate of Municipal Administration. She was also Additional Director General, Foreign Trade, Mumbai, in the Department of Commerce, Government of India. Wherever she served, she pioneered many systems and processes in the ecosystem that changed the way they functioned and impacted millions. She has also worked towards skill building in future-oriented projects like artificial intelligence, the Internet of Things, and robotics, so as to meet the needs of business and industry. She has published a number of articles on development and public policy, authored books on farmer suicide, and on the role of community in management of water supply systems. Her latest book, published this year, is titled Making India Great Again, Learning from Our History. Welcome, Mitaji, and thank you so much for your time. Our next great panelist is Dr. Ranjini Manian. Dr. Ranjini Manian has spent over 2 decades as entrepreneur, cultural ambassador, and mindfulness coach connecting FDI to India. As founder of India's premier relocation and cross-cultural services company, Global Adjustment Services Limited, Ranjini has served on the Harvard Women's Leadership Board and authored several books. Ranjini ji is currently a full-time philanthropist and social entrepreneur. She is the founder, chair of Global Adjustments Foundation, whose goal is to reduce the gender gap in the workforce, enabling women to contribute to the GDP of the nation. GAF conducts pro bono champion women life leadership coaching and has already touched over 130,000 lives in the disparate groups such as the corporate and government workforce, entrepreneurs, police, soldiers, nurses, faculty, and students. Dr. Manian studied psychology and French literature from the Bombay University and Sorbonne University in Paris. She serves as advisory board member of Apollo Hospitals and managing committee member of the Madras Management Association. She is a mindfulness practitioner and coach for 3 decades. Thanks for being here with us, Ranjini ji. And our very own Dipti Rahula, the very Telangana power woman, as I must say. Dipti Rahula is the first CEO of WeHub, a government of Telangana state India initiative, is the first of its kind incubator aimed to promote women entrepreneurship exclusively among women. Situated in Hyderabad, the city which is the biggest ITES exporter of India, housing Google, Apple, Facebook, Amazon, and Microsoft, WeHub is harnessing the tremendous potential the sunrise sector can offer and is supporting women entrepreneurs coming from various socio-economic strata of the society. Dipti Rahula is an electronics engineer by profession and passion. She has 15 years of experience working in USA with Palm, Nokia, Qualcomm, among others, in RF communication roles. She joined the government of Telangana as a joint director for electronics in 2016 and has been appointed the CEO of WeHub since inception in 2017. She envisions to create a work environment that is gender blind and construct economic independence as a tool of empowerment. She's a strong proponent of girls in STEM and women in decision-making spaces. So that's Dipti Rahula, and welcome. All of you are doing great work. So, I think we can just start. I have a few questions, and then if there are some questions from the audience, we will take that. So, Mitaji, let's start with you. So, as we understand that the mission of National Commission and as well as the mission is to strive towards enabling women to achieve equality and equal participation in all spheres of life by securing her due rights and entitlements through suitable policy formation and effective enforcement. So, can you tell us that since the commission was set up in 1992, how it has been able to make a difference to the women in India at that time and now?
Thank you, Rashida ji. It's a privilege to be part of the TIE Global Summit today. And in response to your question, the NCW has been working to create an enabling environment for women in the last 3 decades of its existence. Now, while it is true that the ability to make money is not really either masculine or feminine, and money is gender neutral, but the ability to take advantage of opportunities in the marketplace, to take risk, that has everything to do with how women perceive themselves and what resources they have access to. So it is with a view to that the NCW has been working to improve laws and legislation which would create a much more equal society. Now, one of the basic factors that we have found which stands as an obstacle in the way of women very often is a fear of violence, both in public places and also within the home. And these are issues that the NCW has been working with for a long time now. Some of the key legislations that we have helped draft and enact are, one is the prevention of domestic violence against women and children. This was an act that was passed in 2005, which basically grants women the right to prevention of violence as a civil right. It enables them many other rights and privileges. To implement that, infrastructure has been created across the country. Then the other piece of legislation that was drafted almost entirely by us, and we worked in collaboration with the government on that, was the Prevention of Sexual Harassment at the Workplace Bill. This act was passed in the year 2013, and subsequent to this act, it is mandatory for every organization to set up internal complaint committees and to process cases. Now, if you look at how the NCW has functioned, it has been graced by luminaries throughout. So the current finance minister, Nirmala Sitharamanji, she has graced the NCW in the past. And a very important theme for NCW, apart from strengthening of laws, has also been to improve capabilities of women and to work towards financial inclusion. As a result of all these efforts, today we see that India has one of the most gender neutral laws of any country in the world. So when it comes to opening a bank account, when it comes to registering a business, when it comes to any kind of entrepreneurial activity, registration of property, there is no distinction between men and women. Rather, there are many states in India which today offer a concessional fee where women wish to register property. So while this is the law and it has been enacted for a gender neutral society, even if you were to look at what the impact in the field is, we have a lot of data which shows that there has been a sea change in how women see themselves and how empowered they feel. So one very important source of data which I would refer you to is the National Family Health Survey. This is a survey that is conducted across millions of households every 10 years. And if you look at what the survey in 2005-06 said, it said that if you look at the group of women, married women in the age group 18 to 24, now given their age, this is the most vulnerable group of women, those who are most insecure about themselves and their identity. So 15 years ago, we see that only 7% of such women had their own bank accounts, which they could operate independently. And only 1 out of 4 could participate in major household purchase decisions. But when we move 10 years across the line and when we look at data from the same survey, same set of questions in 2015-16, we find a vast change. We find that now there are 42% women in the 18 to 24 age group who have their own bank accounts, and more than half of them have a major role to play in household purchase decisions. So the young woman in India today is empowered much more so than earlier. She is confident about herself and she is much better able to take a risk. And today, under the leadership of dynamic people like our present chairperson, Rekha Sharma ma'am, there's other members, Shamala Kundarji, Rajul Ben Desai, Chandramukhi Devi, and Kamlesh Gautamji, we are working to include more and more fields where women could be empowered. For instance, one major theme we are working on is about improving workspaces for women in cities. So if you look at how women in the workforce have been operating, there's a great difference between rural and urban areas. In rural areas, more and more women have been able to take advantage of the SHG movement, but in urban areas, that movement is still very slow, and women's participation in workforce in urban areas is much behind rural areas. So over there, we have been working for women-friendly cities. Basically,
Amitaji, thank you so much. I mean, sorry I had to cut you off, but we have a very little time. So, but that's really interesting and good to know the kind of work that is happening. Obviously, at ground level, we always find that, government is lacking and, there's still much more to do. But I'm sure there are a lot of efforts happening at that end, and you all are all doing a great job. So over to you, Ranjini ji, and, obviously, the first question that comes to me is that, for every entrepreneur, there is some trigger or a motivation that leads you to start your own venture. And you have been an entrepreneur for the past so many years. So what is that led you to start this Global Adjustment Foundation? I mean, yeah. You're muted, please unmute yourselves.
Sorry. Thank you very much for that question. And It's a wonderful act to follow a leader like Meeta Rajiv Lochanji, because I think the important thing is exactly this: government and individual and business with government coming together is going to be an exponential success for our nation. And so thank you, Rashida, for bringing us together as a panel. I wanted to just share with you really quickly 3 pictures that will tell you what hopefully led to the story of wanting to champion women. And in our foundation, we use the word champion as a verb and a noun. We create champions who are already self-powered within, just need to be told, hey, you need to wake up that power within you. And we champion women because our tagline is champion a woman, she will build the nation. But you know, the story goes back 25 years, and I just will take 3 minutes to tell you the 25-year-old story with 3 pictures. Hopefully, Rashida, you don't have to cut me off, but you can. So 25 years ago, we started when the FDI had just started coming into India. This is relocation business, right? So our job was to bring all these companies that are in your hub now, Deepti, whether it's Amazon or whether it's Google and all of the IT companies, but also these manufacturing firms, Make in India companies that came in. And our job was to make sure that the families were successful in relocating to the country so that they could set up a manufacturing plant, but also the whole family enjoyed the India experience, giving them support physically and also from the mental space of connecting with India. So the first step that I had to do is somebody would bring in, let's say, 6.5 billion FDI into India. Who's that? Who's brought 6.5 billion FDI into India? This guy, right? Jeff Bezos, right? And he came in here and he was going to bring his first billion when he came and had a chance. I had the good fortune of inviting him to our center here in Chennai, where we ran a program to experience India and understand the Indian business mindset from a retail perspective. So my job was interculturally aligning someone like Jeff to come and understand Indian perspective. So which India was I talking about, right? Always urban, but all our 29 states talking about one nation. And that was what I tried to do. So we literally immerse our CEOs into the culture, as you can see. Probably that's the only picture of Jeff in a dhoti and angavastram from the south. But I'm just saying that the important story there for me that taught me is, can we engage and leverage the clients that we have? So when I started engaging with all the businesses that were coming into India, it was very clear that they wanted to learn not just about the culture, which is the soft power of the country, which we love to spread, but also they needed warehouses. Today, Amazon's warehouse, we've rented the warehouse and done up the interiors the way they need it, right? With the right shelving and all of those things. And now that Dayton, I've handed over that business to my daughter. So you engage with your customer, but you also leverage opportunities as an entrepreneur all along, thinking, how am I going to be agile and scale what I'm doing? So, but you don't keep your eyes only on his wallet. You keep your eyes on his bottom line. So if he can be more successful in India, he's going to invest more in India. And that's going to be a boon for me as an entrepreneur. So my first question here to entrepreneurs listening to this session is, hey, is there a network that you could build in whatever area you already are? And if you're thinking about an entrepreneur, can you also think about staying agile so that when you have an opportunity to raise it, you actually go ahead and improve or scale up the business model of what you're working on? The second story was when I was asked to write a book, Doing Business in India for Dummies, right? By the time you say the end of that title, everybody's laughing, like dummies, ha, ha, ha. But actually, dummies is a very, very simple style that you write for very intelligent people with very little time. I didn't know that. So when they asked me to write that book, I was a little worried. I wasn't sure. I only knew about working with businesses more from a cultural standpoint. And I was thinking, how am I going to do hard-hitting things like Rashida can do, let's say, on law, or Deepti can do, let's say, on taxes, or all of those things. And then I realized all you have to do is push your comfort zones and you can actually do it. So the book came out with a lot of help from teams that I rallied together as researchers. And then the book got me invited to serve on the Women's Leadership Board at Harvard, another area that I had to embrace my newer comfort zone, right? Look at all the women at the Harvard board. The woman on my left, Patricia, is a woman of color who's a gender diversity head of McDonald's worldwide. So all of them are really, really talented and very in a way, very efficient in what they do. But if you embrace your newer comfort zone, actually they embrace you back. So the question I have for our viewers is, how can you play to your strengths? Go ahead. You are strong. That's why you're thinking of being an entrepreneur, or you're already an entrepreneur. And what can you do? Go ahead and expand your boundaries. Achievement just follows. There's just being authentic just lets you achieve. So that was my second story. And that story took me to my third story, which is at Harvard, I had learned all about gender intelligence as a subject, right? People were teaching in the West, how can you use gender? You're wired differently, men and women, but we can use the strengths of both genders to balance, right? And I love this famous saying that the chairman on the board would tell us. She would say, men and women are like 2 feet. You need both to advance. That's the truth for India too, or for anyone now in a global audience. Your situation needs that balance of gender to be able to be powerful. But what was happening in India? All the engagement I was doing with clients coming in, FDI, they were asking for women's CVs. Either there won't be enough engineers applying, or if they apply, when they get married, they'll say, I quit, I'm getting married. Who asks a man, you're getting married, how are you going to manage work and life? Why does the woman think she has to do it? So these questions came to my mind, and I thought, wait, we have to build a curriculum. It has to be called life leadership, and it has to be taught at college and workforce levels. And that's when the idea of Global Adjustment Foundation came, and now we're able to empower and leave a legacy with it. So if we do well and we serve it forward, I guess all of us will be doing our bit on earth.
Thank you so much, Ranjini ji. This was indeed very, very, very beautifully said, where you have really showed the 3 important things about women is, which is the title of our topic, Embrace, Empower, Engage. So thank you so very much. And now I come to Dipti. So Dipti, obviously, government Telangana launched VHub in 2018 with an idea to promote women entrepreneurship, and I think Telangana is the first state which has really started this exclusively for women. And so Aditi, just for the benefit of all our startups who are listening to us, of course we know a lot what is there available on the website of VHub, but what is it that is not available, which you would like to discuss about what VHub is, what is the facility, what are the benefits, and if you can share in a quick some success stories of your startups that you have incubated, so that it gives an encouragement for others to take it forward.
Thank you, Rashida, Meeta ma'am, Rajni, and also Divya. It's such a pleasure being here. And one of the benefits of being the last speaker in an esteemed panel is that you don't have to speak a lot, because a lot of wonderful people have already spoken so beautifully. So yes, I head VHub, and we are India's only government-led incubator for women entrepreneurs. And when we talk about women entrepreneurs, we are working with entrepreneurs across sectors and across scale and across socioeconomic strata. Number one. Second thing is VHub only going to be working for companies by women, for women, making women things? No. We are actually working with any kind of an enterprise which has 51% ownership by a woman leader. Because the focus of VHub is to make sure that women become leaders and become entrepreneurs. But we are not creating a utopian world where women only lead women, work with women, because real world does not work like that. Real world is real world, right? We are not in a Wonder Woman kind of a universe. So very briefly, we do 3 things at VHub. The first thing we actually do is government liaisoning. I think Meeta ma'am and also Rajni Garu has spoken quite a bit about how government has to be more accessible for many of the entrepreneurs. So there's a lot of state and central government subsidies, schemes, incentives, policies, and support mechanisms, including collateral-free credit linkages, which are available, but not a lot of women entrepreneurs know about it. Example, Meeta ma'am, there is a CGTMSE scheme. Not a lot of women knew about it, because they were actually borrowing from friends and family when they could actually get a collateral-free loan of up to 2 crores before, but now it's a little bit lower. But these are the mechanisms that we operationalize. We operationalize government policies, and we make sure that we are a single window clearance mechanism for all the government schemes and policies that are available for women entrepreneurs. Second thing that we actually do is incubation. So incubation, you heard so much about incubation, right? Everybody thinks incubation means you have a fancy place, you sit out of it. We'll take you through 12-week session where we'll teach you about brand building 1 week, design thinking second week, something else third week. No, we don't do that at VHub, because we believe that at VHub, when you're an entrepreneur, all these are some things that we need to teach you in a pre-incubation curriculum. After you become an entrepreneur, we can't teach you about brand building, because that is something that you need to be aware of when you start your brand. So we actually run a very active pre-incubation program, which is 12 weeks, where we work with aspiring women entrepreneurs and even women who feel that, I want to explore what this entrepreneurship is all about. So we work on the fail fast methodology, and we take them through the entire design thinking, product building, finances, basically everything that you can imagine. And the second aspect of what we do is incubation. And we run 2 kinds of incubation programs. One is the urban tech-enabled entrepreneurship, and second is the social impact. Why do we need 2 incubation programs at VHub? The reason is urban tech-enabled women-led startups by people who look like me need a different kind of intervention compared to the tier 2 and tier 3 kind of enterprises that are there. So the thing that we've noticed, and ma'am Meeta Garu and also Rajni Garu, you can correct me, is that when we run a rural entrepreneurship program, we always think of it as charity or giving back to society. But what we are trying to do at VHub is we are trying to move the tier 2, tier 3, the community mobilization model that is there in the SHGs from a beneficiary model to an entrepreneurship model. So for that, there is a lot of work that we are actually doing, and we work with 23 districts in our state, and with about out of 4,900 women, we could find only about 108 women entrepreneurs. And these are women from every district in the state. And these are women who are actually even making about 4.5 lakhs in their own small town and hiring about 45 women. One of them actually hires 45 women in her sericulture unit. And the other entrepreneurs, actually, she's 57 years old. She has not passed grade 4. And she hires 12 people and she makes 2.5 lakh rupees a month. That is our tier 2 entrepreneur. And on the urban side, we work actively with high potential women entrepreneurs. And this is a nationwide program. We are not limited to Telangana only. And we work with 26 women entrepreneurs in 16 cities in the country. We are a virtual incubation program. And we have a very high bar for entry. And the reason is, one of the biggest problem with many entrepreneurship programs run for women is that you apply, you get in. What we do is, we don't reject anybody, but what we do is we take all the applications, we screen them, we take them through 3 to 4 rounds of pitching, and we have an 8% acceptance rate for our incubation program. So we take only 8% of our applicants, and we do a very customized program, which means that, let's say Rashida comes in, we don't say, Rashida, come on, I'll take you through a 1-year program where I will tell you what to do. It's not like that, where I will tell you what to do, but it's more a interchanging model where you can tell me what is it that you expect from the program, and we'll create a curriculum just for you. We have 5 mentors just for you, and we do the entire end-to-end work for you. And all these at no cost. And the third thing that we do is ecosystem building. So if you take any women entrepreneur, and Rajni, you mentioned that everybody has the same problems: access to funding, access to networks, access to space, access to, places where you can actually work out of, and many other things. So what we are trying to do at VHub is we have created an entire 12,000 SFT space where we have a mother's room, a child play area, and we have more than 18 countries that we collaborate with. And when I say collaborate, it's not just MOUs, but we actually have incubation programs with them where, every 3 months we have a review. So we work with 18 countries on internationalization, and we are also partnered with 32 incubators in the country, because we are sector agnostic. We bring the best of every sector. If let's say if somebody is looking at deep tech, we work with IIIT on that. If somebody is looking at fabulous companies, we work with IIT Hyderabad on that. If somebody is looking at doing something on FMCG, we work with the Agritech University. Or if somebody is looking at life sciences, we look at CCMB. So these are, and then in the ecosystem, we also work a lot on policy research, and we also work on women in leadership and girls in STEM. So this is briefly what we do at VHub. We are a team of 14 people, and we work with close to 3,497 women entrepreneurs across the board. And VHub, while it is a government of Telangana initiative, we want to make sure that we can work with every woman entrepreneur who wants to go places. And we are there to support them from anywhere in the country. So yeah, that's all I wanted to say.
Thank you.
Wow.
Oh, that's brilliant.
Yeah, so I mean, of course, this is amazing, Dipti. this is really something which even is not, news to me, and a good learning for me too. So that's great.
And we need to work on our PR, it looks like. But yeah, I'm sorry.
Yeah, no. Obviously, there are a lot of people who really don't know. So this is, a great platform for people to understand what We Hub is, because it indeed is doing a lot of good work, and with the support of the government. So I think we have to really push and advertise and ensure that we get that name fame for whatever we are doing. So all that work. So that's great. And so coming back to Mitaji, and I think we have some questions also from the audiences. So I'll just quickly, maybe take some questions here. So Ranjini, yeah, okay, Mitaji, there's a question for you also. So do you think that, you spoke about financial independence, and you talked about, that people, because now there are more financial independence, and you see the numbers from 15% to 42%. So a lot of it happen. So, but do you think that this is helping in reducing the domestic violence? Because, what we read in the papers, what we do, and, things that are happening. So has it helped?
So I'm very glad that you asked that question, because this is something which consistently came up during the lockdown, and it came up so much that we actually gathered data from police stations across the country and from all the states. And the data consistently showed only one thing, that domestic violence had really gone down. But now here's the rub. Even though it had gone down, people weren't willing to believe any of it, because there is a general image that has been built up that India is a patriarchal society and all that. And I must tell you that none of the data supports any of that. Now I write routinely for the newspapers, English newspapers, Hindi newspapers across the board. I simply put all the data together. And when I shared it, newspaper after newspaper refused to publish that piece. They said, see, you may have data, but it goes against the general understanding. So, friends, when I said that a lot has to do with how women perceive themselves, I think that's all important. If you build up a public image about this Bhartiya Abla Nari who's oppressed and who's beaten at home, I think that's BS. Please don't subscribe to such negative images. It's not true. I personally, quite apart from my present avatar, I've spent 30 years in Maharashtra, and boy, the kind of women whom you see over there in urban cooperative banks, leading sugar factories, and so in so many areas of life. So I think we should learn to take data more seriously. And if we do, then you'll get a very different image from what is projected.
Thank you so much. This is indeed heartening to know that, there is, data shows that that domestic violence is reducing. Unfortunately, the media is sometimes just doesn't give the correct pictures. So rightly said, thank you so much for this. And Ranjini ji, in your opinion, do women need empowerment or just an equal opportunity without all the cultural and corporate barriers? So this is another question that has come up. Yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you very much. Actually, I want to dovetail into this based on, standing on the shoulders of Mitaji, because I think it makes complete sense that whether it is for entrepreneurship or with the cultural barriers, opportunities are not going to be given to us on a platter. It's up to us women to go grab them, right? So first starts at home. We have a program within the Champion Woman 20-hour class where we teach mother-in-law management. I think that's very cultural, but you know what? The person who can advance your career is your mother-in-law, because you can have a really successful career along with a happy family. And that's what culturally we like to do. So when I used to speak about this at Harvard, they don't understand it. They're like, what? You live with your mother-in-law? I don't get this. So it's not meant for all cultures, right? But for India, we should absolutely deepen our Indian roots and then fly on global wings. And women can do it better than anyone else, because it comes to us naturally to be entrepreneurs. It comes to us naturally at home to do marketing. It comes naturally to us to be wired and think of 20 different things at the same time. Entrepreneurship is about all these things. So if we can take the opportunity, grab it, then, make ourselves stronger from within. And that's why in our curriculum, the very basis of our curriculum is emotional strengthening. It's an age-old ancient Indian way to live. 5,000 years ago, we knew how to be spiritual, but we're not doing it as a practice. How many of us are taking the time to just sit in silence, meditate, make ourselves calm in the morning so that we can stop reacting to the day, but we can respond to it? Entrepreneurship needs this a lot. Or whoever, whichever woman in any field. Ma'am was talking about abuse and police data, ma'am. We work in the Tamil Nadu women police, ma'am, because the maximum women police are in the police workforce of Tamil Nadu. And thousands of women have been through our program, because you think if somebody attacks me, I'll go tell the police. But if you're a woman police and you're being attacked, where do you go, right? You better be strong from within. So we would go, Mondays and Fridays and do 100 people at a time, all day programs. And it's clear that the need of the day for helping women live out their potential is not empower, but me power. Give them me power. That's all. Open their eyes to me power. And I think, Deepti, I'm going to come and put a desk in your center and come and do this for you also free of cost, because that's what we do.
Free of cost is always welcome. Thank you.
So yeah, that's great, Ranjini ji. And I must tell all the viewers that, you must watch this video of Ranjini ji, which is there, which talks about Indian women can't act similar to Western women. And what Harvard can't teach you are really interesting points of view. So I think this is an amazing video, which I watched while I was doing some research on you, and I think I must encourage everyone to watch it. It's amazing, and the thoughts and that what you have said through that video is really good. And Deepti, I think there's an audience question for you too, which says that how can we motivate more women to take up entrepreneurship as a means to foster financial independence and gender equality?
It's a very interesting question, and the answer is right here, by showcasing the role models and creating more role models. Because see, one of the biggest problems with entrepreneurship or anything else in life is because we have so few role models to follow. I think if you actually mainstream the achievements of the everyday women that we see, I think that is what is going to promote more and more women entrepreneurship. Second thing, coming down to the financial independence aspect of it, see, the focus is not on there is a misconception that anybody who goes through an incubation program or an entrepreneurship in whatever else or any kind of training program has to become something or the other. I mean, it's good to learn. So if we can actually remove this entire result oriented diploma giving kind of an outcome for every program that we run, and expect anybody who goes through a program to be something or do something, I think that will actually make the joy of learning a lot more. So I think that is second thing. And third thing is, again, that is a onus that we take on VHub very seriously, is evangelizing and doing a lot of financial inclusion classes. And again, I'm really bad at finance as well. But the point is, if you make it not technical and more fun, and I'm sorry, Rashida, if I'm actually saying this, but if you make it a lot more fun and accessible and quick results, and I think more and more women can actually do it. A small example, at VHub, we frequently run credit linkages thing. So last year when we did it, we actually had only about 45 applications and we could get about 7 crores of collateral free loans. And I'm very happy to share that during the lockdown, when we actually did the credit linkage drive again, we actually have received applications of up to 92 crores. And I think we can operationalize about 35 crores. And the reason I'm telling you these numbers is not because, it makes me feel good, but the fact is that many a times the DPRs that were done or the proposals that were done, we actually trained the women who are actually applying to make it themselves. So I think that kind of evangelism needs to be there, and demystifying this entire aura around everything that is being done also makes life simpler.
I completely agree with you, Deepti, because it's the women entrepreneur or the entrepreneur itself knows their business. So they are the best people to make their DPRs. If you go to a consultant or something, they're going to put all the jargons and all of those things, but it's not going to help, because when they go and relate that same thing to the officer or whoever, they're not able to relate to what is there in the business plan, because they're telling what they can do, and then they find that this is not what the business plan says, and that's where the entire thing. So I think this is a very good thing, that if they can prepare their own business plan, so that.
And Rashida, one more thing I'd like to add is that there is a lot of entrepreneurs who come to us and say, "Oh, I just take care of the business. My husband takes care of the finance." So we make both of them sit together and do the DPR.
Right.
That is one more thing that we try to do.
Yeah. So yes, please go.
Sorry, I was just going to add one line and say that if we can take whatever knowledge is there, say in a forum like this, And if we can run it as a curriculum and just help every woman bloom wherever she's planted, that's the curriculum we should be running. The role model on one side, the self power on the other, and all of the financial and the technical support on the third. So I hope this forum will agree and we can do something to embrace, engage, and empower along with each
Excellent,
other.
great. Thank you so much. So I think we are short of time, so just have a minute. And I wanted to end it a little differently in the sense that I would like each one of you to tell 2 things about your co-panelist which you learned, which you thought was good. So maybe we can start with Meetaji.
Yeah, so what I really liked about Rajni ji was the point that she made about cross-cultural barriers being so important, and yes, that you can actually address this, and she has shown it in the kind of work she has done. And the other thing which I really learned and liked about Deepti and what she said was that when you work with women, you have to not only reach out across and try to see that learning is more fun, but also that you get them to define what it is that they want to do. Otherwise, so often in government, it's the other way around. You try to preach to them. So I think your approach was very, very refreshing, in which you ask them to identify what the problem was. So that's what I learned from you.
Ranjani ji.
So I love, and I'm going to reuse shamelessly every time what Neeta ji said. She said money is gender neutral. I love that. Only thing is we have to tell our women that please take that money and be the boss of that money, because you can become rich by hard work, but you can't become wealthy unless you've invested it well. So I love that from you, Meeta ji. And Deepti, I think the idea that a pre-incubation, hey, get ready, don't come here and then figure out, hey, what's my brand? I love that. So I wanted you to maybe talk to our government and say, let's bring this into the curriculum in college level. Let everybody learn all these things at the college as which she said beautifully, it should become a pre-ready sort of person coming into the incubation.
Great. And Deepti.
I'm frankly in awe of both these my co-panelists, and I'm so privileged to be here. With Meeta ji, one thing is that I've actually read quite a bit about you, and then when I saw the NCW, I was like, okay, a little bit skeptical, but it was very refreshing to hear from you about how you rely on data. And I think domestic violence and this entire Indian women ethos that you want to counter, I think is very, very amazing, ma'am, and really appreciate that. And with Ranjani, what I really appreciate and I love is that she's so fun to when she speaks, and I think a lot of times, again, ma'am, very respectfully, when somebody becomes a very successful entrepreneur, they kind of go on a pedestal and they start to preach. But you're actually saying, let's talk. And I think a conversation is something that we all need to have, and it's very refreshing. And I find you very easy to talk to and also learn from. And I think that's really nice. And Rashid, one thing is that I find you very graceful and very articulate. So that's something I would like to learn someday. So thank you
so much.
I'd like to learn generosity from Rashida. She picked up one video of mine and told everybody. That's so kind of you. Thank you, Rashida, for
so much. I love that. And
thank you, Rashida ji, for bringing us together. I think that is something which I will always remember, getting in touch with other people who think along similar lines so that we can synergize with each other. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for your kind words, and over to you, Divya. I'm sorry, I would love to conclude, but we are short of time, so I'll let Divya to conclude.
Yes. Thank you so much. I wanted to say a quick thank to all the panelists and to our viewers. That was an absolutely wonderful session with our gender agnostic, all-inclusive, power feminist panel. I loved it and hope you did too. Watch this video again on our TGS website or TIE Hyderabad YouTube channel once the summit is over. And do watch out for our entertaining skit on the Slam Dunkers at 10 p.m. today that showcases an investor entrepreneur world of 2040 where women rule. Stay tuned for our next session. Signing off for now, I am your chefpreneur host, Divya Medar. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.